Well, hi everybody to our evening, the Flutter Festival Munich. We'll give you an intro to full stack Dart and Monetizing Your App. We have
Sorry to interrupt you. Your mic is broken, I guess, again.
Okay, I think Daniel's thing is broken, unfortunately. So maybe I'll just take over for the meanwhile. So yeah, I think we'll just wait for a few seconds. Wait a second. Wie kannst du dich muten? I think you can hear me twice, right? Great. Now it's better. So yeah, we'll wait for a few minutes just for people to join, and maybe Daniel for him to fix this microphone. But yeah, welcome everyone. Happy to see you here. Maybe let's wait for like 6:05 or something like that. Okay, Daniel is saying that it is lagging for him. Okay. His big role will be afterwards anyway, so he has a little bit of time to adjust. Okay, he's back. Let's see.
Can you hear me now again?
Yes, it's kind of not loud at all.
Is it better? No, right?
I mean, we can understand you, so maybe it's fine.
Okay. Yeah, my headphones, they're like, I don't know, I have some trouble with them. I'm sorry. All right. Yeah. After the short delay, welcome everybody to tonight's evening and to our Flutter Festival in Munich. We'll give you an introduction to full stack Dart and how to monetize your application. The tonight's speakers are first of all the girl, like the lady with Vivi. She's also like part of the DSC team and also from the TU Munich. Our second speaker is Kilian. He's working at a worker base and is a Flutter engineer. And Alexander, and the last but not least is Alexander. He's working at link5.io and he's a founder. And yeah, I will hand over to Vivi. She's gonna start the presentation and the introduction to Flutter. And yeah, in the end, we will have a short quiz, and hopefully every one of you will take part, and we'll have like some cool gadgets you can win. All right, let's go.
Okay, I hope everyone can see the screen from Kilian. Let me quickly adjust my display. Okay, so the first part of the talk will be introduction to full stack Dart. Cool. So I'm Viviana, as you've already seen. Can you put down the next slide, please? Yes. So yes, I am a computer science student, a master's student at TU Munich, and I'm here today with Kilian, who is my friend, colleague, and also was with me at TU Munich before, and he's a co-founder of multiple startups. A lot of them had to do with Flutter. So yeah, excited to be here with you, Kilian. Today's goal. So first of all, what is Flutter? What is Dart? Especially for those of you who haven't maybe worked with Flutter or Dart before, a quick introduction to that, and also why it is really cool to have the opportunity to do Dart and Backend. Secondly, we will build we will give a demonstration of a code that we wrote in full stack Dart. Specifically on the right side, you can see a screenshot of that app, which is basically, if you know the situation where you don't know which movie to watch in the evening, this is the app for you, where you can recommend to your friends the movies that you like, and you can also append your ratings of movies if you have watched them, maybe don't agree with the rating of your friend. Yeah, and lastly, we will do a short showcase of other alternative you can use and conclusion. And make sure that you listen carefully, because there will be a quiz, as Daniel already said, and you can win Flutter swag. Okay, and also if you want to see the slides later on the bottom right, you will always find the link for our slides at least. Yeah, first point, what is Flutter, what is Dart? So Flutter, first and foremost, since this is a Flutter festival, is a cross-platform UI framework. That means that you can write a single code base in Dart, which is the language which is the base of Flutter, basically. Yeah, you can write a single code base and compile it into multiple devices, like an app or maybe a Windows app or a website, which is really awesome because, yeah, you can think why it's really awesome. And it is promoted as a front-end thing. So it's really easy to build really beautiful apps. However, that's not everything that Dart can do. So let's take a closer look at Dart, the programming language. On the right side, you can see a snippet of Dart code. And if you've written any programming language before, you can see how similar it is to most of the known programming languages. And that's also the first point. It's really easy to learn. If you have learned any programming language before, but even if you haven't, it's a pretty logical language to learn. Secondly, it is also type and null safe. If you don't know what null safety, for example, is, it gives you the control over the variables that can be null or that cannot be null. So that's really convenient. Yeah. Thirdly, it's also asynchronous and single-threaded, so you don't have to think about mutexes and everything all the time. And lastly, and this is the one we will take a look at today more, it enables you to do code sharing with Backend. So before we take a look at that specifically, let's first clear up what full stack means. So basically what we've covered so far in previous talks is the left side, the front end. So basically in Flutter, you can write really beautiful apps, and that's everything that the user basically touches on their device. But that's not everything, right? You have to have a backend where the data is stored, for example, the movies and the ratings in our example. Usually the backend is like a snippet of code that runs on a server, sometimes together with a database. And a lot of the times right now, it is written in a different language than Dart, for example, Java, Ruby, Go. But we will show you today why it is amazing to write it in Dart as well. And then the last building block is an API. So you need to have an agreement between the front end and the back end so that both sides know which data will be sent and how it will be sent so that they can understand basically what they're sending. All right, so let's conclude. Why should you use full stack Dart? The biggest point here is code reuse. So writing your app in front end and back end with the same language gives you the opportunity to actually use the same code, part of the same code for both sides. For example, we have shared models, so you can actually write your classes, for example, once and share them between front end and back end. That way you can be sure that if you want to change something, it will be taken over by both sides. If you can click again, Kilian, please. And again. Yes, you will later also see some examples of API generation. This is also really nice because you only need to generate them once, kind of, because they're both in the same language. Therefore, also, it is easier to learn because you only have to learn Dart. And it is also easier to maintain, as I said, because you can share some code. And if you change something, you can be sure that both sides take over that change. All right, that's it from my side. First of all, let's dive into the example.
All right, thank you. First, I'm sorry, I don't know what happened to my voice, but I have my tea here, so should be okay, hopefully. All right, yeah. So before we look at the code, actually, I want to have a quick word about the project structure that we're going to use. So obviously we're building a full stack app. So we have two main applications. So one on the front end, one in the back end. So we have the Flutter app and the back end. But as Vivi already said, we want to have a third Flutter package actually that is a shared package. And in this, we want to put all the stuff that we just like that both the app and the backend uses. So in our case, the models. So we look at them later. And yeah, that's the general setup. Also, then you want to include the shared project in your app and in your backend as a dependency. So as a path dependency in our case, so not like some other dependencies that are hosted on pub.dev for Dart, but you can define a path here and it will take it as a normal package dependency, and then you can use it in your code just like any other import via a package. All right, so how does it look in code? Yeah, I have it open here. Let's see, we have our 3 projects. So at first, the Flutter app, just to give you a quick overview of what we are having here as a file. So we have the main.dart. This just set up the basic app. We check if we are authenticated, more on that later. And we run our like basic material app. Then we have some widgets, we have some dialogues. So I can show you actually here in the app. This is just the list of movies we have. We can add a new movie using this dialogue here. Let's quickly give it a rating, and then it shows up in our list. We can also take a movie that already like some other of our friends recommended, and we can say, okay, I've watched it, but maybe I didn't like it. And then what is shown here is just the average of every rating that was given to the movie. Yeah, so we have some widgets, some dialogues here, what I just showed. But maybe more importantly, we have some services. We have a user service which handles authentication, and we have the movie service, which has all the functionality that we want to use in a combination with our backend. So the communication, what we have to fetch data or send data to the backend. So we have the get all movies, which just fetches our list of movies. We have an add movie function that creates like when we create a new movie, and we have an add rating when we have an existing movie but want to add our review to it. How that's implemented, we're going to see later. So I just want to continue with like the overview. Let's go to the back end. Here we have 2 folders. We have a bin, which is the entry point for our backend. So instead of the main.dart, we have the server.dart, which will be run by Dart when we execute the app. This will just set up some basic web server, like this. So the serve method is something that comes from Dart. We give it an IP, we give it a port and an handler, and this is basically the main thing for our backend. This is the function that handles all the requests that come in via the API, and then they do some stuff and they return a response. This whole setup here uses the package shelf, which you want maybe to remember. This is the basic, the go-to package for Dart to set up some web servers. This is also like maintained by the Dart team itself. So yeah, it's the go-to thing to do. Also a little pro tip here, there's a package shelf hot reload. So normally, maybe when you come from Flutter, you are used to like the hot reloading stuff, which is really awesome. But on the server, you don't have that by default, but you can enable it or like use it with this package. And then you can, like when you change some code in your backend project and save the file, the server automatically reloads, which is pretty cool. Yeah, and thirdly, here our shared project with our models. We have 2 simple models. We have the movie, which just has a name, a genre, and some ratings. And the rating is itself, again, another class, which just has a rating and an author. You can see here, Viviana. And the rating is just an integer between 1 and 5. So yeah. So let's go over how we want to implement or like connect our front end to the backend. Yeah, as said, we have our movie service, which has all the important bits for our communication in it, like querying the movies or adding a new movie. And we want to define for each of these methods, we want to define actually an endpoint. So a get endpoint for the movies and maybe a post endpoint to send some data for adding the movie and for adding a rating. And yeah, you can define this once. You have to make sure. Yeah, and in our case, we want to maybe use a path parameter here for the movie ID. And yeah, and then the client will use these endpoints to call the API from the backend, and the backend has to listen to these endpoints and implement them accordingly. So how are we going to do that? On the client, there is package HTTP, which again is a package that is very popular. It's maintained by the Dart team, so it's the go-to, maybe the default choice. There are other packages, but I really would recommend this one. It can do everything that you want to do. This is the basic syntax. You can do GET request with http.get or POST request http.post. And for POST request, to provide a body with some data that you want to send to the server. In our case, let's look at that. So again, here in the movie service, we have the get all movies. For example, we construct our URL. The domain is just my local machine here right now. And then the /movies as the ending. We send a GET request to the URL. We talk about authentication later, and then we get the response, and we pass the response back to get a list of movies. And this is pretty much like from the setup, from the general idea, all the same for every endpoint. So at first you construct a URL, you send the request, and then maybe if you need it, you decode the response. But like for the adding the movie, we don't really get any response from the server. So we don't have to do that. And also for the rating, same stuff. So yeah, do a GET request when you just want to get some data, do a POST request when you want to send some data to the backend. Then we have to, of course, implement this on the backend. We have to listen to these endpoints that we just defined. We can do this with the shelf router package. This has some maybe similar looking syntax here. We again can define get points, endpoints. We can also define post endpoints. Yeah, then we can provide this to our app. This looks then like this. Let me go into the movies here. Again, we have our 3 endpoints. Stripped, we don't have the /movie prefix because we have this in some other file, but we can have like the get, which returns all movies. We have the post to add a movie. We have the post to add a rating. And this again does almost always the same. So we pass any request data that we get. We then actually call our internal backend service, and then we return a response. And this backend service here is a pretty simple implementation where we get all movies. We just query the database. To add a movie, we just insert something to the database, and to add a rating, we query the database for this movie and add the rating to the movie, and then update again this movie in the database. So nothing really fancy here. And this is also currently some in-memory database. We don't work with SQL or something right now, just to keep it simple, not really complicate stuff. Yeah, so then we have successfully, hopefully, connected our app to our backend. And we can see how this looks when I do a refresh here. We get to see that our /movies endpoint is queried. When I do maybe add a review here, we see that our movie /ID/rating so the ID is here, Red Sparrow, is queried. And then after we update or add a new rating, we query the movies again to update the list here. Yeah, so pretty awesome. Next thing I want to talk about is serialization. So you already maybe thought about it. When we send some data from the client to the backend or otherwise, we have to serialize the data. We want to use probably JSON for this. And you could do it manually, just here's how you could do it manually. But generally, it's not really recommended to do it because it's a lot of work. It's actually really a lot of boilerplate code. So, therefore, it's also pretty hard to maintain. In Dart, there's or generally as a developer, what we want to do when we have lots of code, lots of tasks, it's hard to maintain, we automate it, of course. So how does that look? Again, there's a package for it, obviously. Here we're going to use Dart Mappable. This is a code generation package. And basically what it does, it generates all the stuff that you would normally write manually for you. So you don't have to worry about updating it, about maintaining it. It's everything done for you. And just as a disclaimer, this package is actually authored by me. So I may be biased, but there are also alternatives that pretty much do the same here. So they can be exchanged. And yes, you see it's a lot shorter here. And let's look at the models. The movie, so it's really short. It's just what you need. Nothing else. Nothing about the serialization here. Everything is generated, and then in our movies, we just call maybe mapper to JSON to serialize the movie to JSON, or mapper from JSON to pass a JSON back to our movie class. All right. Last thing I want to talk about is authentication. I hope maybe you have heard about JWTs. It's pretty broad topic. I could do a separate talk about it, so I can't really go into the details of it. But it's generally a method of authentication that you want to use for web apps. It works like this. So when you log in, the client sends the username and the password to the backend. Then the backend checks for if the user exists, if the password is right, and if everything is ready, it sends a token back. A token, JWT, is just a string. And what you on the client have to do is you have to store this token, as you see here. And then you want to use this token in every future request that you do. So you have, so for all our, for getting the movies, for adding a new movie, you want to use this token. And then on the backend, so you for issuing this token is pretty straightforward because you can use a package for it that does all the calculation, all the cryptographic stuff that's actually done for that. So you just have to check if the password matches when you get a login request, and then create a token using this package. And for every movie request, you take read the token and check if it's valid. And yeah, that's pretty much all done by a package. So in our case, we have a simple login endpoint. When I log out here, I can try again with a username and password, and then we should watch here the requests. So when I log in, I get an auth/login, and this returns me a token. I store this token, and then I use this token to create the /movies endpoint. Yeah, all right. So I hope it wasn't too quick. It's just I know it's a lot. It's just to give you a general overview of what all the different aspects of a full stack app would be. Maybe all topics could be a separate talk. So yeah, so if you have any question, we can do this later. Also, the full code, the complete app is on GitHub. You can look it up afterwards. And yeah, with that, maybe over to Vivi again.
All right. Yes, I have the honor to show you some additional topics and resources. So first of all, maybe you remember from the beginning of the demo, we used Shelf, which is a more low-level package, I would say. There are more high-level packages like Alfred. As you can see, it kind of makes things simpler and shorter, but it also takes away a little bit of the freedom of how you want to build up your stuff. So yeah, take a look at that if you are thinking about building a backend app. We also have another more sophisticated package, which is almost already a framework by itself, which is Functions Framework. This package basically auto-generates server setups for Cloud Functions, which is really convenient if you're thinking about using Cloud Functions anyways. As you can see, it is then only a one-liner. And you can use this package also in combination with other packages like Shelf, as you can see. Another package that Kilian wrote is API Agent, which you can basically have a shared folder where you define your API as an abstract class, and then it auto-generates basically both sides, client and server, and you just have to implement your specific logic there. So that's really convenient. If you want even more convenient ways, there's two example frameworks that we found, ServerPod and Conduit. Take a look. They have even more stuff like even logging, caching, ORMs, built-in authentication, testing libraries, everything you need. So yeah, take a look at that. As I said, you will find all of these resources in the slides. So yeah. Now, if you have built all your code, your app and everything, the last step, of course, is instead of using a local address like Kilian showed you in the demonstration, we want to launch it in real life. And unless you have a spare server lying around at home, you want to host it on a cloud. And how we recommend to do it is with a container, because this gives you most freedom, and it's also, I guess, the most standardized ways right now, since Dart is still incoming. Maybe in some future point, Dart will be available from all the platforms out of the box, but right now it is really convenient to do them in a container. If you don't know what a container is, basically it gives your code an environment to work wherever it is. So if you imagine a really shipping container, there are like little men working inside. They can work in the container wherever the container really is, whether it's in Sydney or New York, because the container looks the same from the inside, right? So you do the container, and then you can host it on different platforms like Cloud Run or AWS, which are cloud-based platforms where you have to pay per load. So depending on how much traffic you have. There are other options like DigitalOcean where you pay per server, or if you just have your small like playground thing you want to play with, we can recommend Heroku because it has a free tier. Yeah, so that's it. It was quite fast. We have gathered some learning resources for backend Dart here. Feel free to learn more. This is just like an introduction. If you haven't learned anything about Flutter and Dart yet, we can also give you here some more resources. For example, our introduction into Flutter workshop from last year, which is on the bottom left side. That's it from our side. Next up is Alexander's talk about how to monetize your app. Thanks for listening. If you have questions, I posted the Slido link in the chat. I can post it again in a second. Please feel free to ask your questions there. There will be a quiz after Alexander's talk, so I hope you listened. And yeah, over to you, Alexander.
Many thanks. So let me start by sharing my screen. Okay, I hope, can you see my screen?
Yes.
Yes, okay, all right. Yes, so I'm talking about how to monetize your app. And basically it's in the end very simple, but I will go through some parts of it. So I would say let's just start. So I'm working, or I'm the founder from Link5, and we are trying to make the payment or the purchases for Flutter as simple as possible. And you can join us on our mission. You can go to link5.io or follow us on Twitter, or follow me on Twitter, and yeah, be part of it. So let's talk about what types of purchases are there. So there are two types of purchases. One type is the one-time product, and the other type is the recurring product. And we just talk about a little bit what it is. And the one-time product is like the premium loot boxes, the level packs. So you probably know also some games that sell those. And this is more like a consumable that you buy once and you get like one-time benefit out of it. And there are also like in-game currency you can buy. This is like gems or stack of coins. There are some games that sell coins or gems that you can then use to purchase something else. And this is like a one-time product. The recurring product is like a more like a subscription, like a recurring value that you get from the app. And this could be like a weekly subscription, which is just for a week in the end, and the monthly subscription for a month, and it goes up to the yearly subscriptions. So those two types you can buy basically. And now you think about maybe, okay, the Flutter is kind of multi-platform. Is it possible to maybe buy something on a multi-platform app store? And no, this is not possible in the end. So if you build for Flutter, then you build for either Android or iOS, or of course web or Microsoft and Windows, or Windows and Mac. But if you want to purchase something from the App Store or from your Android or from your iOS version, you need to go through the Google Play Store and Apple App Store. Okay, but there are of course some different languages. There's Dart, of course, and there's Kotlin on the Android side, and there's Swift on the other side. So how does it work? And yeah, do we really need to code in Swift and Kotlin? So this is the question. But no. So just to say that in the beginning, there is the Flutter package for that. And this is also a cool feature or a cool thing that Flutter has. There are tons of plugins available. And if there is no plugin, you can just write a plugin, which is also really cool, and support the community. And it's growing a lot over the time. So I can just, like, if you want to do something, just go to pubdev, go and search for something like an app purchase in this case, and then thank the creator in the end. So in this case, it's also the official plugin from Flutter.dev. So they are like continuously improving the package in this case. Yeah, but before actually you can purchase something in your app, you need to create those purchases in the App Store and Google Play Store. But we're going to skip this for today because we are focusing more on the programming side. So let's go and do some coding. So in the beginning, if you want to offer something, you need to know what to offer in the end. So if you have, let's say, an Android app and you go to the purchase page or the paywall in this case, and you say, okay, what can I actually purchase? And for this information, you need to connect to the App Store or Google Play Store. And if you use the in-app purchase package, there is this method which is called, .instance is just a singleton in this case, and then you check if the App Store or Google Play Store is available. So this is, you also go there and wait for the connection. So in this case, so it established a connection to the native App Store and Google Play Store through the native bridge to the native platform, and then it returns basically, okay, it's good, there is a connection, or there's an error somehow. In this case, for example, if you run this on a simulator or an emulator, it doesn't work. So it will probably say, okay, sorry, there is no connection because you're not allowed to connect to the Google Play Store since you're in simulator or emulator. But if it's available in the end, you can go ahead and say, okay, all right, the connection is established. Let's show something we want to purchase. And let's say we have the subscription here, and you need to provide basically the names of the subscription that we previously created. So in this case, it's the monthly subscription and the yearly subscription. We call it Link 5 monthly and yearly subscription. And then you create a set out of it. And then basically you go ahead and say, okay, in a purchase, query the product details and with the product IDs. So in the background of it or behind that, so it goes again to the native site. It connects to the App or Play Store, and it fetches the information that we need basically to show the information to the user, like how much it costs and what it actually is. Inside those responses, you get some things like not found IDs. So for example, if you have a typo in your string, or if you have, because you need to hard code those strings first. For example, if it's 2021, for example, it doesn't exist in the Play Store or App Store, then it cannot find the IDs basically. And then you get a list of not found IDs and you need to handle it somehow else or somehow differently. than everything else. There's also an error, which is basically the if there's, let's say, connection issue or or there's an exception on the native side, you get also the error there and can handle it. But to be honest, I have never seen an error there. So it's so far everything works so good that there is no error. And of course, the product details. Here is also a list of product details because you can query a lot of products at the same time. And there you can go ahead and say, okay, I got, in this case, now 2 products we want to basically show to the user. And then that's it, basically. You can go ahead and say, I want to show, for example, the title. So this is the content of the product detailed parameters. And there's a title, description, the price, the raw price. So basically the raw price is then $2.99, for example, or the currency code is, or symbol is euro, for example, or dollars, because it can be purchased on the worldwide. So you need to know, okay, what is actually the currency at the moment for the user, because you're in Germany now, but someone from India can purchase it and there is something different. But if you think about the subscription, for example, okay, there's nothing that really says, okay, what's the type, or what's the length of the subscription? Is it a monthly subscription, or is it one-time purchase? Is it I don't know, what is it in the end? And there in Flutter, for example, there are some cool things, or they build a cool thing, which is an extended product details object in the end. So if you look at the top, there's product details with the previously shown parameters. And then if you look inside the object, so you will see, okay, it's not only a product detail, it's also an App Store product detail. So you need to check basically, okay, if you're on iOS, you will get this App Store product detail. And if you're on Google Play, you will get the Google Play product detail, basically. And those have a lot of more information that are also like bound to the platform. For example, if you look at Google Play product details, there's also a free trial period. So you can set basically, okay, if you want to purchase this, there's a free trial of 7 days. And from only the product details, you don't know that, because it can be that something like this doesn't exist on the other platforms, like on Apple App Store, for example. Yeah, and then with all this information, you get this information, you can go ahead and say, okay, I want to show the paywall to the user. In this case, it's also a Flutter plugin, and since everyone here does a Flutter plugin, this is our Flutter plugin. It's called In-App Purchase Paywall UI, and there I go ahead and update the paywall for everyone, so everyone can use it and show what they want to offer in the end. And for example, here we have 3 options. You can just say, okay, this is a 12-month subscription for $40.99, and then continue and purchase it. Yeah, so like, how do we now make the purchase? So we offered this now to the user, but let's make a purchase. And this is in the end very, very simple, because from a previous step we got this product details, so we know what to offer to the user. Now we just need to go ahead and say, okay, I got this product detail from the previous step, but what the user clicks on, so basically he clicks on this 12-month subscription, and then we go ahead and say, okay, we have this purchase param, and we just wrap the product details inside it with just a constructor, and then we just make a purchase. In this case, you need to know, of course, if it's a non-consumable product or a consumable product. And a non-consumable product is more like a season pass. But a consumable product is like a one-time purchase, or also, or I think a subscription is a non-consumable product, but I'm not sure at the moment, but I think one of those. And then you go ahead and say, okay, I'm going to purchase this now. And then you basically, the purchase dialog pops up from Google Play or Apple App Store. And then it, of course, summarizes everything again. It says, okay, this is $12.99, or in this case, 99 cents. There it says 10 minutes, but it's just for the sandbox. So it's just, if you want to test the subscription, for example, it's not a month that you need to wait. It's far less. It's only 10 minutes, for example. So you can really test the cycle. Okay, what happens after the 10 minutes ends? And then go ahead, okay, and cancel and see how the app will react in the end. yeah, and that's it actually. And then if the user press on buy, then you get the money. That's how it is, right? But how do we know if the user really purchased the product or completed the purchase in the end? And for this case, there is an option to listen on purchase updates. So listen to on the purchase stream in this case. So you go ahead and say, okay, in that purchase, for every update, I'm gonna listen to that. And if there is an update, if it's done, you're gonna handle this. If there's an error, you're gonna handle this. And if it's a purchase free, you just listen to the update. For the purchase update, so this is basically a list. So you can see at the very top, there's purchase detail list, because there can also be multiple objects that can be purchased. Or for example, if you restore a purchase, there can also be multiple items that you can purchase or can we go through the purchase list. And for this case, you need to handle every purchase at a time. In this case, you can see, okay, there's a purchase detail status, and the status tells you, okay, is it a pending purchase? Is it an error purchase? If it's canceled, so you can basically handle every single step in the process in Dart, which is really cool. You don't need to go to the native side again, because everything is handled on the Dart side. And then here you can just show the pending update. You can show the error if an error happened. You can show, okay, the user canceled the purchase, and then you can go ahead and say, okay, is something wrong? You can also create a dialog, for example, and say, hey, did we do something? Is something not clear? Or depends on you in the end. And of course, if the user purchased, then it's purchased. So which is in the end our goal. And then we can go ahead and enable all the premium features. We can add the coins to the product, to the user basically, and go ahead. And in this case, again, so the purchase detail is basically wrapped with some information, and there are some App Store purchase details, and there are some Google Play purchase details basically. And in this case, so in every case, you can check, okay, is this now part of the App Store? Is it part of the Google Play Store? And then you can pick the information you need to know for the next steps. Last but not least, it's actually very, very important to complete the purchase. Why? Basically, okay, you see, okay, the user purchased the product, then he paid, right? Or with the process of paying is starting, but there's also this very important step of completing a product, completing a purchase. Why? So what Apple and Google needs to know, okay, the user pressed on purchase, but did we get this update? Did the app maybe crash in between, or is something not working very well? Is our app not working? Is our server not working? Or so, for example, if you have a purchase and you send this purchase to the server, then did the server get this purchase? Did we handle it correctly? Do we add the stack of coins to the account because the user doesn't want to buy it multiple times? And for this is very important to complete the purchase, basically. And if you do not complete a purchase, there's of course something going on. And in our case, so if you don't complete the purchase will be revoked or refunded after 3 days. This is just to protect the user in the end. It makes sense because let's say you have an issue on your server or on your app and it crashes all the time. So the user doesn't get the benefit from the purchase. So basically Apple and Google goes ahead and say, okay, we're gonna revoke this and refund this to the user because there might be a crash or might be something might be something wrong in the end. Yeah, and I guess that's it. And of course, there are so much more in the end that I can tell you, but I think the time is a little bit limited, so I can go ahead and do a bigger talk on every single thing there. And yeah, I want to thank you just for being part of that. And yeah, Link 5 mission is to enable in-app purchase for everyone and make purchases in Flutter App valid, easy and secure for Android, iOS, web, Mac, and Windows. That's the 5 in Link 5, so it's on our way, basically. Yeah. And I think I can hand back to
me.
to you. Perfect.
Perfect. Yeah, thank you for the talks. And now we're gonna start our quiz. I'm sharing my screen for a moment. So the Q&A is later on, but here we can see how you can join the quiz again. And basically, now it's your turn. And yeah, go hop in and join the quiz. All right. Great. Tim, Mike, Ray. All right. Are we still missing somebody? Or, oh, yeah. All right. Yeah, then let's start the quiz. Right. What is the main advantage of using Dart full stack? All right. The answer is it enables code reuse with shared models. All right. Then let's go to the next question. This is correct. All right. In which forum do we recommend you host your backend Dart code? All right, let's see what's correct. Yeah, in Docker containers, that's correct. All right, third question. What happens if you do not complete a purchase? Nothing, we unlock all pay features. The purchase will be revoked, refunded after 3 days. Purchase completes itself after 3 days, and purchases cannot be completed. All right. All right, I guess a lot of people think it's number 2. Let's see, that's correct. And our final questions, both App Store purchase details and Google Play purchase details extend. Right, all right. All right, let's see that. Number 3, purchase details, and that's correct. And we have a winner, Floria Lon Albert. And actually, we have a second winner too with Sing, and a third winner with Phil. The first 2 of you will receive a swag shirt, and number 3 will receive a bag. And yeah, in the end, you can leave your you can. I'll drop the DSC email in the chat, and the first 3 people. And congratulations to you. And the first 3 people, like, please send us an email so we can give you the voucher code so you can like get your swag. All right. Yeah, that was quite fun. Let's go to the Q&A. All right, there are a couple of questions. So the first question, let's start with most upvoted questions. So the first question is, how does Flutter handles users who update data when offline and then get a network connection?
Okay, so as I know, there's not really like an built-in way in Flutter to do this. So basically, when you do like an API request and it fails because of missing network connection, you have to do probably manually like storing your data and then sending in it when you're back online. I don't know if there's a package for that. From my experience, for most things like that are actually packages, but I don't know any right now. Sorry.
Okay. Cool. The next question is, you show the log of the server in the demonstration. Is the log automatically created for the server?
It's not automatically created. You have to define a middleware to log all incoming requests. It is done in the code. I don't know if I should show it, but if you go to like if you have the code in the server.dart file, there's a function called log requests, and this is basically it.
All right. Okay, cool. This one is okay. Like the next one is, the plugin in-app purchase looks super easy to use. Why would I need to use link 5 instead of just using the plugin?
Hello. Yeah, thanks for the question. It starts basically with the beginning. So you have seen that there's hard-coded IDs that you would need to put into your app. And also, if you want to, for example, offer something in India, so something else in India than in Germany, then you need to handle it differently. Or also, if you want to run a B test, for example, you need to switch the IDs and offers and the analytics behind that. So this is basically, it's easy to implement a very basic version, but it gets very, very complicated if you want to do it like right and really on the next level, basically. And this is where link 5 comes in.
Okay, cool. The next one is, what about monetization with ADs?
Yeah, IDs, probably ads. So yes, so I can also recommend, or basically who recommends ads in the end, but this is also possible, and it would make sense for a lot of users. And this goes not through the Apple or App Store. This goes basically to Google AdSense. So there's a package, I guess, for Google AdSense. So you can just put in the ads package, and you can say, okay, I want to show ads. Yeah, that's possible.
Okay, cool. So next question is a little bit general, but I think you can still answer it. Like, what are the pros and cons of writing your own backend versus like using BAS like Firebase?
Yeah, that's a tricky one generally. But like to start off, you can use Firebase when you're writing your own backend. So like Firebase Authentication or Firebase, like the databases, you can use that with your own backend. I think maybe the only thing that is worth comparing is like Firebase functions, which is like the backend code that you can write for Firebase. Unfortunately, Firebase functions does not support Dart, but as we said, you can use Google Cloud Run, which is in a lot of ways similar and as easy to use, and there you can use Dart. So yeah, whether to use Cloud Functions with some other language or Cloud Run, it's more or less comes down to your own preference. So
okay, cool. Next question, which monetization model would you recommend for a small team? Which factors should you consider?
This really depends on your app, basically. So monetization model in terms of, okay, one-time purchase or subscription. Of course, subscription is more, I would say, business focused, because you get a revenue stream, basically. And this is like more used by bigger companies, also like YouTube, for example. But if you have, for example, a game, then maybe subscription doesn't make sense. It's more like a season pass or one-time purchase. So this depends on your app. And I wouldn't say, okay, it depends on your team. And if you look at ads or versus subscription or purchases, I would say for a small app, of course, purchases make more sense because to get, for example, 100 euros in revenue with ads, you need a lot of users in the end. And for 100 euros for a good app, there just need a few users.
Okay, cool. I think, we have some more questions. All right. Is there a template for server Dart projects like is for a Flutter app?
There is. You can just, like in the command line, you can just type Dart create, and then it will show you all the available templates. And there's one called server shelf, which is also the one we used for the backend as a starting point.
Okay, cool. All right. Could you talk about animations and how to make widgets pretty or custom made?
We kind of talked about that in our first talk last year, which is also in the slides. But I think that's also not the topic of full stack Dart. It's more a topic of Flutter and how to write Flutter widgets.
Yeah.
Maybe take a look at the resources we linked.
All right, cool. And the next one, do you know any alternatives to JSON Web Tokens for logins?
I mean, probably you can use session cookies. Also, you could use Firebase authentication, which is, again, like an easier way to do it, but they use actually JWTs like internally.
All right. Okay, cool. I guess OAuth is also a possibility. So
yeah, sure. Yeah, sorry.
No problem. Yeah. Okay. Like the standard authentication protocols, which are supported, like in I think.
You can you can use any authentication that you want to do. So.
All right. Cool. Oh, final 3 questions. Is there a research to learn more about how to set up purchases on Google and Apple? Basically, what you skipped.
We have a blog basically, and link5.io/blog, I guess, or Flutter-blog. Just go to link5.io and there's a blog. And we focus on those topics in everywhere. So you can also hit me up and I can also show you some things. So there are tons of resources. But I think link5.io is the perfect page for the initial search.
All right. Okay, cool. Is there, like the final 2, is there some way to make functions framework work with Firebase Cloud Functions?
Yeah, unfortunately not. As I say, Cloud Functions doesn't support Dart right now. But like the whole idea of functions framework is to make working with Cloud Run instead just as easy. So.
Okay. Cool. And final question: any tips on testing IAP?
Yes. So in a purchase. Yes, test it in the end. So you can, on Google Play, you can set basically accounts that are test accounts, and every purchase will be then done not through you. It's done like by a Play credit card. So you can do that and just go ahead and purchase anything you want and test it. On Apple, it's the same. You can just create a test account there and you can purchase anything. And just in the end, it's just testing, and that's it.
All right, cool. So that was our Q&A. Nice. Thank you for the presentations, and I'll hop in like the email address for the DSC for the winners of the quiz to get to receive your swag. And was really nice to have you here, Vivi, Kilian, and Alexander. It was really nice, and were a lot of questions, and really, it's really great to see a lot of participants. And so that's the DSC email. So please feel free to reach out to us, the winners of the quiz, and
Thank you very much, and thanks for sharing the link.
I just
sure.
Privately.
Yeah, but I sent the email like a few minutes ago too.
Okay, cool. Thank you all, and see you soon.
Yeah, thank you all.
Thanks for moderating.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
I think we can still. Oh yeah.
Yeah.